Okay folks, so let's get started. This webinar is about regaining your vitality. Okay? Now, before the webinar, I said, you know what, I might as well have a look at what this word actually means. And I looked it up, I cheated, I used Google, I used the Google dictionary, but it's got quite a good definition. Vitality comes from the word vital. If a person is vital, they are full of energy and lively. Full of energy and lively. So if a person has got vitality, they've got loads of energy and they're lively. Okay? Now, the word vital, where that word comes from Latin, and it basically means, comes from vita, which means life. So this is where the word vitality comes from. It basically means life, and the degree to which a person has a lot of life that they're exhibiting or showing in their life, or whether they are not showing that much life. So that's where it comes from, vita, life. Now I thought, you know what, Vincent, why not just take this a little bit step further? Let's have a little look at the word life. What is life, really? What does that word life mean? Does it mean the day-to-day, from the time you're born until you die, and then it's just what you do in between? That's life? Well, I found a very, very nice definition of life from the gentleman who wrote this book, and I want to write it down for you. Actually, you know what? I'm going to just draw it because the picture tells it nicely. So what is life? Because vitality comes from vita, which means life. So what is life? So here's a beautiful definition. Life is going along a certain course, okay? Going along a certain course, impelled just means pushed, by a purpose, impelled by a purpose, and some place to arrive. Okay? So we'll put that there as the goal. So that is basically what life is. Going along a certain course, driven on by a purpose, and purpose doesn't have to be very deep, it's just something that somebody wants to achieve. They want to get a cup of coffee. So they have a purpose to get a cup of coffee, they have a direction they're taking, and the goal is a cup of coffee. That's a little tiny fragment of life. Or the goal is to have a successful business. Purpose is, I want to have a successful business. They take the course and then the goal. So these are the major ingredients of life. And if these are missing, then, or if they're very low, life is low, and then what happens to vitality? Vitality is low as well. So, what does this mean? What it means is the very first step in regaining your vitality is to make sure you have a goal. Is to make sure you have a goal. Now, I'm going to give you two examples of this. And these are from people I know personally, or have known. I know a farmer who is over 85 years of age, gets up every morning and is out still working on the farm, is in actual pretty okay physical condition, but he's old and he's a bit more rickety, but he gets up every morning and goes out, and he has a desire, he has a purpose to keep his farm going. And his end goal is a farm that's kept going. And he's following that course. And this gentleman, even though he's very old in the body, he is still full of vitality. There's still a lot of vitality there. Okay? Second example, I know another person who as a teenager had lots and lots of problems. Lots of losses, lots of bad experiences, and to a point where they got to in their early 20s, they just didn't know what they wanted to do, and they just got into a job to pay the bills, and they're just working to pay the bills, but they don't even think about where they're going anymore. They just think on a daily basis. So their goal could be survive the end of the day. So that could be something, but they've lost track and they've lost sight of their goal. And so there's somebody in their 20s who is missing this. And how do you think that person looks every day? They don't look very full of life, because they aren't. They're not full of vitality, because they don't have this little baby here. So that is the very first thing that you need to do in order to restore vitality. It usually means when a person's vitality is gone, their goal in life is buried a little bit. It's kind of gone. So you might have had a goal to be a successful artist. You tried it, it didn't work, or you got led off course and you've kind of given up on it, and since you gave up on it, your vitality just hasn't been the same. Or you might have had a goal to, I don't know, become a successful athlete, and some bad things happen or whatever, and you got lost off track and you've lost that goal. Even if you lose goals, you can set new ones. And so even if the goal of becoming a successful athlete or becoming a successful musician is not real to you right now, you can set a new goal. Now that new goal does not have to be very mysterious. It doesn't have to be deep. Oh, I really have a passion. I just have to work out what my real passion is in life. Let me see. Give me 5 years and I'll work it all out, what I really, really want to do, what I'm destined to do. I'm not really looking for that right now. You need to just set a goal, something that you personally would like to achieve. Not something that your mammy wants for you, not something that your daddy wants for you, or your husband or your wife or your children want for you, but something that you personally want to achieve. Because the only way it's going to arrive is if it's driven by your own purpose. It has to be your purpose. Now, of course, if you're on a football team and the manager wants you to go down and score the goal, you kind of have his purpose, but it's a shared purpose. You have the idea that you want to score the goal, and the manager has the same idea, so you share the same purpose. But the purpose has to be yours. So here's your first practical exercise. What I want you to do right now is just to set a goal for yourself. It doesn't matter what it is. If you already have one, please, if you don't mind, pop it into the chat. But I'd like you now to set a goal for yourself. And it can be anything. It can be, I don't know, get fit in 6 months. Or it could be save up enough money for, I don't know, a computer. Or, I don't know, improve a relationship with somebody. Or it could be open a business. Or it could be, I don't know, do something for mankind. It could be big or it could be small. So take a moment and just set a goal for yourself and something that you personally would like to achieve. And then if you don't mind, share it in the chat. I would love to see it. I'm just going to pause there for a moment and you can just take your time to type it in or whatever you like. Okay, thank you very much, Eileen. Lose weight. Okay, thank you. Sally, get a new job. Fantastic. Good. Help others. Lorna, that's very good. And you know what, Lorna? It would be good to put something there that's a bit more specific, because sometimes people have a goal that's a bit broad. You know, how do you know if you've achieved it? So you might just pick one person and say, okay, I'm going to help that person over the next 6 months. So you have a kind of a target. Because sometimes goals can be a bit too general, as in, oh, I want to become a better person. How do you kind of measure it? It can be difficult. So I recommend trying to be a little bit more specific about that one. Just join a fitness group to improve flexibility. Fantastic. Thank you, Sonia. Improve health. Thank you, Bindu. And again, with that one, it would be good to have a date, as in improve your health by when. So there should be a date by like 10 years time, 20 years time, 5 years, 6 months, 4 weeks. Okay, so make sure you put in a target time. Okay, Maria, lose weight. Thank you very much, Maria. And again, there should be a target weight because you have to be going for something. There has to be somewhere to arrive. Thank you, Stephen. Work in fitness more, get a new job. Okay, very good, Stephen. Thank you. Anne-Marie, start your own business. Good. And again, same story, Anne-Marie. Whatever that business is, there should be a time, a deadline. Thank you very much. Eileen, take up swimming. Lorna, auditor. Okay, very good. Auditor means one who listens, and we'll go into that later on. Excellent. Thank you very much, folks. Brilliant examples. And anybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, you can put your comments in and they'll come back around to me. I've got somebody keeping an eye on those particular platforms. Okay, so that's the very, very first thing with vitality. It's put a goal there. Okay, so now let's go over the second thing. Okay, why don't I just pop this over at the side? Okay. Let me just pop this over here. Put a goal there. Okay, that's the first one. Now, the next one that majorly affects your vitality is this, and that is thought. Okay. Let me just write this down. This is I listened to a lecture from this gentleman who wrote the book, and it's a beautiful little line, and I tend to agree with it. It's thought is boss. So what you're thinking, and the ideas that you have about your life, and about what you should do, and about whether you can achieve your goal or not, comes from thought. When you think something, the next thing that comes from that is the emotion. Okay, so we have emotion next. So depending on your thought, the next thing will be coming down is your emotion. And then from there, the emotion, the next thing that comes from that is action. Okay? So you have thought, emotion, and action, or you can call that effort. So let me give you a couple of examples of this. And this is why this thought thing is so important. Now, you've seen and probably heard many things on the various social media platforms and various self-improvement techniques and whatever, that positive thinking and changing your mindset is important, and it is. It is important. What I'm going to go over in the next section is why it's so difficult to keep it going. Okay? So, thought is boss, because after thought comes emotion and action. So let me give you a couple of examples of this. So let's say you're thinking negative. Okay? Let's say, where's my red marker? There it is. Let's say you're thinking negative. So it's negative thought. And you're thinking, I'm too old. I'm too young. I can't. I couldn't be bothered. I'm not good enough. It's never going to work out. I don't trust anybody anyway. Nobody is there to help me. I can't do it on my own. It'll never be successful. Or whatever those thoughts are. I'm just not going to make it, or he wouldn't like me, or they're not going to give me the job, or I could never really start my own business, or I don't think I'm going to be successful at it. So that negative thought is going to lead to an emotion. So if you start thinking, you know what, I don't think I can do this, the emotion is not going to be enthusiasm. It's going to be something like maybe worry. Okay? It's going to be something like worry or anger. Okay? or it could be fear. And then the action based on that will be will follow that exact thing. So for example, if you're negative thinking and your emotion is you're worried or you're getting anxious or you're very sad about the things, the action is not going to be very much like playing a game. You're not going to be very full of vitality because it's not going to feel like a game because you don't think you can win it anyway. So in the action element, you'll have no game. And you'll be a game watcher rather than a game player. If you look at, there's a lot of people, okay, they might not be wealthy, but they are still playing the game. They're still trying to achieve their goals. They're still doing things. They've still got dreams. You know, they've still got dreams. They've still got purposes, and they're still doing something about it. They're still playing the game. And a lot of people, because of this idea that they can't do it, their emotion comes down, and then they just end up doing nothing about it and just watching life go by. Or did you hear about what Joe did the other day? Oh, he started up a business and he failed. He shouldn't have done it in the first place. But that's game watching. It's not game playing. Because you can comment on other people's games and their life till the cows come home. But what good does it do? Okay? So if you have negative thought, it's going to lead to negative emotion and negative action and lowered vitality. Okay? So if you change that, if that is different, so let's say we get rid of this here, this section here, and this section here. And we change this to positive. Okay? And the person starts thinking, you know what, I can do this. Life is good. I am good enough. Maybe I don't know everything, but I can learn. You know, I can be successful. Life isn't that bad. It's good. You know, I can create wonderful things. I can be successful. People, I think, do like me. You know, people in the world aren't all bad. There are good people out there. I can get help. I can do this. So once that thought starts to be positive, the emotion follows. So then the emotion is going to be something like cheerful, or interested, or enthusiastic. So those are the emotions that are going to follow through with it. And then the action is going to be game player. Okay? So that's what the action is going to be. And there is going to be vitality there. So if there's positive thought, that's going to lead to positive emotions, and that's going to lead to positive action. In a few moments, I'm going to explain to you what messes up the whole thing. So I know it might sound, oh, Vincent's on a cloud at the moment, and it's all wonderful in theory, but don't worry, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty in a minute. So the positive thought is going to affect the emotion, and it's going to affect the action. So your thought, whatever you think right now about your life, or about a particular area of your life, or about your goals, is going to determine how you approach that goal and the action that you take, and whether you become a game player or a game watcher. So this is your next exercise. What I'd like you to do right now, just for a moment, think about some negative thought that you think affects your life, and I'd like you to just change that to a positive thought. Just think of some thought, some negative thought that currently affects your life, that you have about yourself, and try and just change that to a positive thought. If you want, you can write down the two things, the negative one and what you've changed it to. If you don't want to, that's completely fine. So just take that negative thought and just try and change it. So for example, if you have an interview tomorrow and you're thinking, you know what, I don't think it's going to work. Well, then just change that thought to, it's going to work. I've studied enough. I've learned enough for this. It's going to work. So just try and change that thought. Okay? Okay, and so if any of you want to share what thought you've changed, the old one and the new one, please pop it into the chat. If you don't want to do that, that's completely fine as well. So I'll just give you a moment to do that, and we'll move along. So then the exercise is, whatever that negative thought that you have and that hits you regularly about your life, that I'm not good enough for this, that, just change that thought. Just try and change that thought. Okay, well, we've got one example coming in. Strength instead of weak. Brilliant. So whereas you say, I'm too weak, you just change that to, you know what, I'm actually strong. Because there is more actual truth in that. There's more truth in that aspect of things. Okay, so that's the second thing. When you do that, when you start changing those thoughts around, or at least attempting to do that, you're going to find that your emotion is going to change and your action is going to change as well, and you're going to have more vitality when you change that thought. Okay, Sally, I always think that I'm too old. I will try and change that. Thank you, Sally. Great. So the opposite of that would be, I'm not too old. I'm not too old. Even if you're 80, I don't know how old you are, even if you're 80 years of age, just like the farmer example I gave you, he doesn't get up in the morning going, you know what, I'm too old for this. He doesn't even think that. He just thinks, I can do this. It's no problem. Thank you very much, Sally. Kay, I was thinking I'm too old. I can't move on from college. Ah, yeah, there's a good one. That's it. You can just change that to I can move on from college. Okay, so thank you, folks. Now, the next bit is the main point of the webinar. I'm going to explain to you why it is that it's so difficult to keep your goal there, and why you get so distracted, or why it is that you lose your goal, or you get pulled off your goal, or you lose your goal, or you forget about your goal. And this is the main point of the webinar, okay? So for example, that last exercise I gave you, many people recommend to others, just think positive, okay? Now, it's easier to say that than it is to do it. It's easier to say it. I could say, oh, just think positive. It's much more difficult to actually do it. And even if you're successful, what happens is the negative thoughts just keep coming back in. Okay? So you have this. This is the next bit, right? You have this thought, I can. So you decide tonight, you know what? I can actually lose weight in the next 6 months. I can do this. Or I can get healthy. I can start up my own business. Brilliant. That's excellent. So that's your thought, okay? I can do this. As soon as you start thinking that, what comes up then? This other thought comes up. This other thought. It's too late. Or I should stay where I am. Or whatever. And then there's this thought comes in and you're like, okay, what the hell's going on here? I want to think positive, but I can't. Every time I try to think positive, a negative thought comes in. And when that negative thought comes in, vitality goes down, as I explained before. So where's this negative thought coming from? Why is that you are not thinking positive? You want to think positive. It's quite natural to think positive, but yet you're thinking negative. What that basically means is that you are not in control of thought. That's basically what's happening. You have thoughts that are coming in that you don't want, and you're acting on thoughts that you don't even like. You're thinking, you know what, all people are bad, and I don't want to have anything to do with anybody. You can't trust anybody. Or I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too stupid, I can't learn. And so all these negative thoughts come in. So now I'm going to tell you why that is. And this is the thing which messes up both of these things, of your ability to put your goal there and your ability to think positive. And the reason for this is this. You have a mind which you use every day to solve problems in your life. And all your mind is, let's just keep it nice and simple, it's a collection of pictures. A picture of your breakfast this morning, a picture of your breakfast yesterday morning, a picture of your breakfast the previous morning, and right back. So you've got pictures of everything that you're observing on a daily basis. So you're observing things going through your life. Great, and you use that mind to help you to solve problems. Now, the problem is this. There is a hidden part of the mind connected in here. It's a hidden part of the mind that is not under your control, and it affects the thinking. It's a hidden part of the mind which is not under your control, and it affects your thinking. So, the name of this part of the mind is called the reactive mind. Okay? And the reason it's called reactive is because it does not think, it just reacts. Okay? And what does react mean? It's basically push button, an automatic part of the mind. It's a push button, automatic part of the mind. So in other words, there is a part of your mind which is push button, and it can affect the way you think without your consent. So I'm going to show you how this works in just a moment. I made up two nice examples here, which I'm going to read out to you right now. Okay, so this part of your mind, you say, Vincent, what's in it? Well, there are two things that are in it. One are moments of physical pain. So any memories that you have or recordings of accidents, injuries, falls, operations, getting mugged, getting beaten by your Uncle Joe when you were 8, that's physical pain. And when those incidents happen, there's a huge impact. The lights go out here and the information all gets stored here, nice and hidden. And the next thing is emotional pain. And I'm going to give you an example of how this works and how it affects your vitality. So, let's say this person, and he has a passion for cycling. He wants to be a professional cyclist. He wants to win the Tour de France, and he's been doing this for years, even since he's a small kid, watching it on television, and has a very strong purpose to become a professional cyclist. And so he has this drive, and he's full of vitality, gets up in the morning, puts on the shorts, get out, rain, hail, sleet or snow. He's out on the bike. And then one day, he has an accident on his bike. He crashes into a parked lorry. And he's injured, and the lights went out, and a little recording gets stored here in the reactive mind. So anyway, after a couple of weeks or a couple of months, he recovers physically. His legs are better. Physically he's better. So he's well able to get back up on his bike and continue on. The trouble is this. The way this reactive mind works is that it was kind of put there to warn you and to protect you from any instances of physical pain in the future. It's like an automatic thing that was kind of designed to protect you from pain in the future. The problem is it doesn't really think very logically. It just thinks one way, and I'll show you. So let's say the guy's back on his bike, and that's fine, and one day he's cycling and he witnesses a bicycle crash, okay? And there's a guy upside down and he's after getting hurt. So one day he witnesses a bicycle crash. Now, what the reactive mind does is it tells him, okay, that's similar to this, so I'm going to take over here now to protect you, so we'll stay away from that. Now that sounds quite logical. We'll stay away from that. The trouble is that it also applies the same logic to other things. So let's say his mother says, why don't you enter that bike competition? The reactive mind says, oh, bike competition. You need to stay away from that because it's pain. Or the guys invite him out, say, listen, we're going to watch a bike race. The reactive mind goes, oh, bike race, bike, fell off a bike. Okay, stay away from that as well. Stay away from everything to do with bikes because there's too much pain. Even conversations about bikes. So the reactive mind is a very stubborn, it's kind of like an animal part of the mind that doesn't think logically and just waits for something in the external environment to trigger it off. And what that does, it steers this guy away from cycling. He decides, you know what, I don't think cycling was for me after all, but it was for him. But the reactive mind is telling him it's not for you. And so he goes off on a different course and becomes something else. I don't know, becomes a chess player. But his vitality will be much lower because he's not going along his correct purpose. He's not going along what he really wants to do. Let's give you another example. Let's say a woman has a goal to get married, okay? And she's going out, she wants to get married and she wants to have kids. Perfect. Okay, so she has this goal and she's going out with a guy for 3 years and she loves this guy and she's just waiting for the day when he's going to go on his hands and knees and go, my darling, I don't want to spend my life without you. Here. Oh, I'm so surprised. She's waiting for the day when this guy that she's been going out with for 3 years is going to propose. She loves this guy. However, he's got a different idea. And he now decides after 3 years, I'm not interested anymore. I'm going to go and live in Iceland with the Eskimos. I'm going to find myself an Eskimo wife. So this is a tragic incident that happens to her, a tragedy, a huge loss. Okay, she moves on from it, but the reactive mind stores it up. So, as time goes by, the more similar things in her environment, the more guys that she sees that reminds her of this guy, the more things that she sees in her environment that reminds her of this guy, this gets triggered more and more and more, and she finally decides, from her point of view, quite logically, you know what, I'm better off on my own. Because you know what, all men are the same. And then that's it. So a new guy comes along and says, hey, Mary, do you want to go for, a meal? And she goes, no, I'm fine, thank you very much. Men. Why? Because of this loss keeps getting triggered. It's not been handled. It's not been handled, so she just reacts. And so her vitality goes down. Why? Her vitality goes down because her purpose was to have a family and have kids. And so that purpose is, the reactive mind is telling her to stay away from that. But that's what her purpose is, and that's where her vitality comes from. So this reactive mind, everybody has one. And whatever is in your reactive mind is very much personal to you. I can't tell you what's in it. But that reactive mind can steer you away from jobs that you should get into, from businesses that you should get into, from relationships that you should get into, from countries that you should visit, from things that you should do, from goals that you should achieve. This reactive mind tells you to stay away from them because it thinks they're going to cause you pain. And it just doesn't make sense. So this is the reactive mind. And the second thing, so I explained to you how it causes you to react. The second thing, particularly to do with losses, now I've run out of space. I'm going to make some space here. And by the way, I'm going to ask you for an example in a moment, so get your thinking caps on, please. When you lose somebody close to you, when you lose a person, the vitality that you have since you were a very small kid, and what you see in teenagers and kids, and they're just full of life. When you lose somebody close to you, let's say you have 1,000 units of life energy. Everybody's got a different amount, I think. I don't think everybody's got the same amount of life vitality. But when you lose somebody close to you, a portion of this gets trapped. So we'd say 10%. And then another loss, you lose somebody else close to you, another 10%, 20%, and whatever. And before you know it, you're down to 400 units of vitality. So, here's how the reactive mind affects you, just to kind of go over this again. The reactive mind stores up all those painful things that happened to you in your past. And it steers you away from what it thinks is pain in the future, whereas it might not be. It steers you away from those things. And when that happens, you lose your vitality. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when you lose somebody close to you, like the second type, a portion of your vitality gets trapped and buried in a little bubble. And this is why when people have losses, they are not quite as lively as they were before. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'm now going to ask you for an example. What I'd like you to do is this. I'd like you to think of an example of somebody in your life who has gone off purpose. Somebody who has gone off what they really want to do. Or somebody that you've known that has gone off what they should really be doing. And that makes them happy, and that makes them full of life. So that's the exercise. Just think of somebody, and please, if you don't mind, pop it in the chat. You don't have to mention names if you don't want to. But an example of somebody that you know or that you knew who went off purpose and how that affected their vitality. So just take a moment to think about that, and then I'm going to show you what the solution is. And then I'm going to take up these questions in a moment. So I'll just give you a moment to answer that question, and then I'll answer these questions in a moment. While I'm doing that, while you're typing up or whatever you want to do, Maria, is this the same with anxiety? Yes. A natural emotion level for people is generally interest and cheerful. These negative emotions are appropriate in certain circumstances. So for example, if you lose somebody close to you, it's quite natural to feel grief. Or if you're being chased by a bull in a field, yes, you might feel a certain element of anxiety because the circumstance suits that emotion. But if, let's say, you're going to a party where there's people that you know and love, but yet you're full of anxiety, there's something wrong with that. And what's wrong is the reactive mind is starting to dictate what's going on because there has been some similar thing that happened in the past which is stuck there, some painful experience. So when we talk about anxiety and nervousness, and nervousness where there's no need to be nervous, it means there's something going on here underneath the surface and it needs to be cleared up. And the same with stress, Eileen, okay? Sally, my dad sold his business, has no goal anymore and got sick. It's a brilliant, brilliant example, Sally. I've seen it so many times. And it also applies to people who retire, they just retire from their business and then they're like, okay, now what do I do? And unless they get involved in gardening or something else, they really go downhill pretty quick. So it's a really good example, Sally, thank you. Doing a job that isn't in line with who they truly are. Exactly, Maria. And the person will have to get some purpose back in. Maybe they were in an accident and they lost both legs, so they can't go running anymore. But I've seen runners who have got these artificial legs and keep doing it. But even if they decide not to do it, they should definitely put a goal there that they want to achieve. And this baggage doesn't help. It's the same with fearful, avoidant. Sonia asked, instinct is this different instinct. Now look, the normal part of your mind that you use to record everything, you can set up automatic things like driving a car, right? You don't even have to think about it because there's something happening in the background. You're just driving and the legs are moving, so there's a lot of automatic stuff going on. So a lot of this instinct stuff just comes from you, not this. It's you. It's the natural part of your mind. Is this the same with fearful, avoidant? Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It's, you're afraid of things that somehow trigger the past. So thank you very much, everybody, for those examples. I really appreciate it. So now I'm going to show you the solution. And I'm going to pop in the third one here. And this one here is going to be, oh, let's make it red because I want this one to be the stress. And this one, this is the most important one because it affects the other two. And that one is clear your past pain. Okay, and that's to do with this stuff here. Okay, so now I'm going to answer the question that you've probably been asking. Okay, Vincent, that's great now, but what do you do about that? How do you restore a person's vitality if there's nothing you can do about it because it's in the past? Well, I'm going to tell you why, and this leads me on to the subject that I introduced you to at the beginning called Dianetics. And I have been talking about this for a long, long time, and it's only for one reason, and that reason is because it works, and not because it's fancy, because it's very clear to understand, it's very straightforward, and it works. So in Dianetics, Dianetics means through the mind, we do a thing called auditing. And the word auditing means to listen. And auditing is done with two people. The person who is delivering the help is called an auditor. Okay? Auditor means a person who listens and guides. The person who is receiving the help, and in a Dianetic session they will have their eyes closed, wide awake but eyes closed, they are called a pre-clear. Pre means before, and clear is basically the end result. So what you're trying to achieve is a person who has cleared up the pain. You're not trying to make a different person, you're just trying to bring the person back again. Get the person back to what they're really like. Get the person's vitality back. Restore the person's vitality. So what's the auditor doing? He's getting the pre-clear to return to these painful incidents that have occurred in the past using an exact 10-step procedure of Dianetics. Okay? Use an exact procedure, not just chatter, talk about nothing for 4 hours, and then talk about random stuff all over the whole planet. It's a very exact thing, and what you're doing is you're trying to clear up that pain and clear up that trapped vitality in order to release the vitality. You have a huge amount of vitality in you. It's just trapped. And what Dianetics is about is bursting those bubbles and getting it back again. So you're going to be clearing up these things using the exact procedure of Dianetics. So the basic procedure of Dianetics is based on communication, and it is the most traditional method of helping another person. So let me just recap on this, and then I'm going to tell you what I would recommend for you, as I mentioned at the beginning. You make sure to put a goal there. You have to have a goal. If you've lost your goal, find a goal. Put something there. You know, I want to wash the clothes this evening. Okay, it's a goal for this evening. Change your thought. You know, try and, you know, if you have negative thoughts, try and change them. It's difficult to keep that going because I mentioned about this past pain, and I'll just pop that in here, the reactive mind. It's very difficult to maintain positive thinking because there's this part of your mind that keeps kicking in. and affects the way you think. And it's the reason why you're not in control of your thoughts. So that's the reactive mind. And then auditing shows you how to clear it up. Okay? So right now, I am going to show you at the beginning, and by the way, if anybody has any questions, you can pop them into the chat as well, okay? Or any examples at all. I'm going to tell you what I would recommend if you're interested in actually doing something about this part here. Look at these parts here are things that you can do which will help you. And you can apply these and they will help. But this thing here is the thing that is going to create stable gain. Okay? So I'm going to tell you what I would recommend for you to do next. I'm going to share my screen, which will explain to you about the Mind Explained course, which I deliver on a Friday night, and I would really recommend everybody to get started on it. When I've showed you this, we're going to end the webinar, and then I'm going to keep, I'm going to keep the chat open, so if anybody has any questions after we're finished, I'll hang around for 5 or 10 minutes and answer any questions that you have, okay? So I'm just going to share my screen with you. Okay. And here we go. Okay. Okay, so the Mind Explained is an online course. It's on Friday, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. and it's on Zoom. It's 4 parts, and each part is an hour, and they are happening in rotation. So we do seminar 1, 2, 3, 4 on 4 weeks, and then we go back and start at number 1 again. So if you miss one, don't worry, you'll catch it next time round or the next time round. The first part is basically explains to you about the mind. What is the mind? How does it work? And why is it that you think negatively? Part 2. Part 2, we're going to go into the basic ingredient of your reactive mind, the very, very basic thing, and what we call here the source of unwanted behavior and emotions. So we explain exactly what is at the root and what you're trying to tackle in Dianetics. Next one, part 3, is losses and their effect on the mind. So we'll dive into this area of losses much more and explain exactly how it is that when you lose somebody close to you, what effect that can have and why it is that you can't move on from losses. And the next part, part 4, is the solution. So in the Dianetics book, which I showed you at the beginning, it contains the various steps that you take to run a session, okay? But in this particular part, we're going to go over the ingredients that you have to have in place in order to make a successful session or to get started at all. So that's in the solution. So these are very, very simple and very, very personal workshops which will help you to understand yourself a bit more and others a bit more and understand the subject of the reactive mind a bit more. Okay, now, as I mentioned, they're done in rotation. So if you miss, let's say, part 2, because you can't attend on that Friday night, let's say you, for whatever reason, you're doing something else, well, you'll come to the next one, 3 and 4, and then the next time around, you can come to part 2, or part 3, or part 4. Or if you can't come the following week as well, you can catch it the next week. So you're always going to get an opportunity to catch the webinar that you missed. Okay, as I mentioned, it's based on this book. Now, the modules on the course are not a substitute for the book, because the book contains everything. But the modules basically help you to understand it more and help you to be able to use the book. Okay? Because the book contains everything. I just wrote down a few things. It's the #1 New York Times best-selling book on the mind. There's over 22 million copies sold, and it's available in 50 languages. The cost of the book, actually there's a little line here first, also contains a detailed description of the mind and its effects on your decisions, thoughts and behavior, and it explains a full section on how to achieve the state of clear. So it's a handbook. It's not just a book of theory. It's basically a practical book that you can start using straight away. Okay, the book itself costs €20 and shipping is free. The Mind Explained course, which is the modules that I've gone over, is also €20. So it's the same price of the course, but you get the book for free. So the Mind Explained course, which is the 4 modules, the book is included in that, and that is sent to you free of charge and free shipping. Okay, so if that wasn't enough, we have a special offer on tonight. So for anybody who is at the webinar, we have this special offer that you can get the Mind Explained course, which is the 4 modules, and it'll be delivered with me personally. I'll be making sure that you 100% understand every single part of it. It also includes the book, and so it's the 4 modules. The book is actually sent out to you with free shipping. You don't have to pay for shipping. And again, it's in 50 languages. So you can actually get that book in Zulu if you want, or there's so many languages, different versions of languages and all sorts of things, okay? So that's the website, the webinar offer for tonight is the Mind Explained course and the book, and it's basically €15. So it's normally €20, it's €15, and that offer is valid until midnight tonight. Woo! It's on until midnight tonight. Okay? So the link is going to be going in the chat for you to enroll on that. Or also that number, which is also going to be put in the chat, so that you can call up, and the phones are going to be manned until 10 o'clock tonight, actually. But you can sign up on the link right until 12, but the phones are going to be manned until 10. Okay? So if you're interested and you want to get going doing something about this, then that special offer is available tonight. It's €15. It's for the 4 modules and the book, free shipping, €15 for the whole thing. Okay, that's the whole thing, not just per webinar. Some people ask me, is it €15 per module? No, it's not. It's €15 for the whole thing. All right. Okay, folks. So that link is going to go up there, and Sylvie has already popped it up there. Okay. Let me just answer this question. Does the course show you how to help other people too, or just yourself personally? Brilliant question, Maria. This diagram is basically, it shows you that auditing is done with 2 people. So it is very much about yourself and about your understanding, but the actual procedure is done to help another person. And so you need 2 people to work Dianetics. And we explained it to you, not just for yourself, but also for other people. So when I go over the course, I explain to you how to set it up, and we work out how it is that not only can you get auditing for yourself to help yourself, but you can also learn how to deliver it for other people. Okay, and Sylvia answered the question, so she just got there before me. Okay, Lorna is promoting the course. For 1 hour 40 is amazing, guys. Best 4 hours you'll ever spend, and notice things in yourself and others. Thanks, Lorna. Okay, does the 4-part course include a solution, and where do we get the link for the course? The link is going to be going up there, Serena, in a moment. I think, she already put that up there. Sylvia already put that up. It's a little bit further up. There you go. So that's the link. And does it include a solution? Yes. Part 4 is the solution as well. So we go over the highlights. Now, in 1 hour, we don't go over every single minute detail of every single sequence, because that's explained in the book. So the exact technical procedure is in the book. But what I go over on the solution is I go over all the basics that you're going to need in order to apply that solution. Okay? So don't worry, we'll go over that, Serena. Show me the 4 parts. Yes, I think I went over that. The 4 parts are those, the part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. Part 1 is about the mind. Part 2 is about the real source of the issue. Part 3 is about losses and upsets. And part 4 is about the solution. So those are the 4 modules, Eileen. Okay, right, folks. So I'm going to end the webinar now, but I'm actually going to keep it open for any questions that you have. So for anybody that's joined us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, thank you so much for your attention tonight. For anybody on Zoom, I really hope this has been of benefit to you. I'm going to stop blocking this area now. As I mentioned, these are things that you can apply on an immediate basis, but this is the main thing that needs to be handled. I want to thank you very much for your attention, everybody on Zoom, and for giving me all your examples. I know you could have done anything else with your hour tonight, but you chose to spend it with me, and I really genuinely appreciate that. I do hope that you will join me for the Mind Explained course. I will personally take care of you to make sure that you understand every segment and that you really get it, and what you do after that is up to yourself. Okay? So just say good night and thank you to the lady that I can't see the name of with the green Irish t-shirt. Thank you so much for your time. Serena, Katrina, Lee, Lady, there, I can't see your name, Amy, Sonia, Sally, Lorna, Carol, Maria, Irina, M, whoever you are, M, King, a gentleman there with the blue and white t-shirt, and Bindu. Thank you so much for your time. That's the end of the webinar, and you can sign out now if you like, but I'm going to just keep it open anyway for any questions that anybody has to come in for the next 5 or 10 minutes. So if you want to sign out, off you go. If you want to hang around for any questions, please feel free to do so. I'm just going to wait here for any questions to come in. Okay, so that's it. End of webinar, but it's kind of not the end, because if you want to hang on, that's fine too. Okay, folks. Serena, the book would be a repetition of the course. No. What I do go over in the course is I explain the most important concepts visually to you, get lots of examples so that you fully have these points. All the information is explained in the book. Okay? All of the data is in here. But we go over on this particular module, it's like a workshop to show you how to be able to apply this information to life. Okay? So I hope that answers your question, Serena. You're welcome, Sonia. You're welcome, Maria. A lot more, of course. Oh, Sylvie's already got in there. Eileen, good stuff. See you on Friday night. Lorna, you're very welcome. And the chat is going to stay open for any questions. So we'll see if there's any questions come in. If not, we'll end off. But it'll be there for you anyway, okay? So if anybody else wants to enter it in there, you can, of course, feel free to do so. I'm here for you. Okay, Marion, first question. Marion, I like it. It's a really good question. Old habits die hard. I love that. Old habits die hard. Old habits die hard. So could you just go back to a negative mind? Here's the thing. Everybody has a choice about how they think. You know, you think, you know what, you should have control over your thoughts and what you think. Okay? So a person has the choice to think it's not going to work. However, this reactive mind is the main thing responsible for telling you to stay away from certain areas and giving you those negative thoughts. So when you've got to the bottom of it, let's say one time you had an accident, okay? And you fell off your bicycle and you banged your head and you went unconscious, or some severe injury. And during the injury, somebody said, "You idiot." Now you're unconscious, you don't even remember those words. But they went in. And believe it or not, words spoken to you during such an incident can actually trigger off and start affecting the way you think. I know that might sound bizarre, but it's not bizarre when you actually clear up this stuff and you find out, actually, hang on a second, that's actually true. So once you've cleared up this reactive mind, you've got to the bottom of what's going on. So you're going to be naturally being yourself and being able to think positively. And, when a person goes on that track, they tend to go towards survival more than towards destruction. And in the survival area, you're telling yourself, I can do it. And not forcing yourself to do it, because it'll come naturally. Like you look at kids, right? Kids are generally very, very positive. Oh yeah, no problem at all. I can climb that tree. No problem. Now, obviously, they don't have the experience, but the thought is they can do it. And then you ask that person 20 years later, oh no, I'd never be able to do that. No, sure, I'm too old. So to answer your question, I hope this did answer it. Could we just go back to a negative mind? When you've cleared up this stuff, Marion, there's no need to do that. And you'll find that you're naturally thinking positive anyway. You won't wake up with these negative thoughts because you've gotten to the root of it. Okay, I hope that helps. Yes. Looking forward to seeing you as well, Eileen. Lorna, look at me. Looking forward to last Monday, same course. There's nothing like tiny Trinity said. Come back to Vince as well to finish his sentences. Do like a refresher, which is good. Okay, so yeah, that's a good point actually. So Lorna's done the modules and is now on a home study course, and you can always come back to these webinars to get any, if you have any questions and so forth as well. Okay, Marion, you are very, very welcome. Okay, folks, we'll give it a few more minutes. Any questions, you can pop them in. Marion, I've just realised you're the lady with the green t-shirt on, am I right? It must be, because there's no other Marion there, so it must be you. Or maybe, hang on, there's another Marion there with brown hair, so I'm going to stop guessing. Okay. I just bought it for the course. Is the webinar saying? Yes. Yes, this Friday, 8 o'clock, Serena. And Sylvia will be able to send you the specific details and you can ask her any questions. So yeah, and I mean, so to give you a little bit of reasoning as why we put this thing together. As I said, I came across this in the 90s. I've stuck with it for over 25 years. And that might seem like, Vincent, why did you get on and do something different? Because it works and it creates stable results for people. It creates stable help. It's not one of these things where you go, oh, well, I did a bit of Dianetics on Friday, I'm going to do Dianetics on Monday, but then I'm going back to feeling crap on Wednesday. It's not like that. When you've gotten this stuff handled, you've cleared it up, that's it, it's done, it's handled. And Dianetics is not a way of life. It's not something that you do every morning. I'm going to get up and write my Dianetic statements. It's not about that. When you've cleared up this, you're done. Imagine that. There's actually an end result. And that end result is this thing called clear. So we've cleared up the stuff. And will bad things happen to you in the future? Maybe. But it's much less likely that you're going to get yourself into trouble again or get yourself into situations which are going to cause you pain. Much less likely. But even if you did, even if you had an accident or another loss, your ability to recover from it is just so much quicker. But boom, you just move on from it, And it doesn't mean that you're never going to cry at a funeral. Of course you will. But it means that you're going to be able to just move on from it much quicker. So I'm not going to tell you how I feel about it because I love this stuff, and obviously I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that. But the modules really give you a clear picture so that you can decide for yourself. At the end of the day, I'm not the kind of person who jumps into something I don't know anything about. So the modules give you a very good kind of a stepping stone, and then you can decide what you want to do at the end of it. And that's no problem, Anne-Marie. You have to leave, and I lost you there. You're gone. Okay, that's fine. Okay, and Serena, is there, if we miss a webinar, is there a playback? We have a facility where we do record. However, I would, honestly, if you miss a webinar, they're constantly going on. So it's always 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you miss one, you're just going to catch it the next time around. So we can send out a recording, but I much, much prefer it if you're there live because it makes a difference. It makes a difference because I can put you on the spot and ask you for examples. I'm just joking. But because you don't have to participate when I ask for examples as you saw tonight. Okay, folks, so hope that helps your question. So don't worry, we'll take care of that anyway for you. King, thanks so much, Vince Kelly. Okay, you are very welcome. King Lovo, I love that name. I love the name. No problem, Marie. Let's see, Eileen. How long does it take to work out while you're on the course? Can you get how long does it take to work out while you're on the? I'm not sure I understand the question exactly, but each module is an hour, and we keep it very, very simple. At the end of that hour, you should be going, oh yeah, okay, now I got that. That's made a difference. I understand that. That has made a difference, and I get it. And if it doesn't, or if there's something that you don't understand, you simply just, we send you the link by invitation, you send me your questions and I would personally answer the questions that you have to basically help you to fully understand it. So there's absolutely no problem with any follow-up on it at all, Can you get a cert in the courses? Yeah, we're putting, when we started off these, there was kind of started off in the modules, we're putting together something on that, and I will let Sylvia worry about that one because she's coordinating the whole thing. I'm the technical delivery, and she coordinates all the different administrative aspects. So I'm going to let Sylvia take that question away on the certificate. Okay? So we can work out something like that. I think it's actually a really good idea. I think it's a really, really good idea that you should finish the modules and get a little certificate. It's a good idea. And finally, I know we've just got a few more minutes left. Like, when I started this subject, right, and I mentioned this on other webinars, is I was only interested in this for helping other people. That's, like, I've always had, and it's a path I followed, and a path that I love is the area of helping and coaching. That's been my thing that drives me. Helping and coaching other people on a group or a one-to-one basis. And that is what's driven me. Initially, when I started off with Dianetics, I did it to help others, not myself. And it was only when I kind of did a course on it and I said, you know what, I might as well get some of this for myself. And on the third webinar, I'll give you a little story, the third module, which is about losses and upsets. I'll give you a little story about what changed it for me to go, okay, Vincent, you really need this for yourself as well. So I got huge benefit for myself as well, stable benefit, recovered vitality, and so, yeah, that's really where it's at. Okay, and apart from the course, will we get some certificate of attendance, please? There's no certificate on this course, but there is on the full. Oh, okay. Thanks, Sylvia. Okay, great. Okay, folks. So that is great. I'm just going to say one last thing and kind of wrap it up. Unless anybody else has any other questions that you want to throw in there. My main purpose on doing Dianetics is to help people to become more able, because each individual has got a huge amount of untapped ability, and you can increase that and increase it and increase it. And I believe that your ability is something that is very personal to you. It depends on your purpose, what you want to do in your life, but you've got a huge amount of untapped ability. And so that is what I want to do. I want to see people become more able and more successful in life in the area of health, physical health, relationships, studying, college, work, business, family, helping mankind, doing something for the planet. I want to see people becoming more successful in those areas. And once this stuff is cleared up, what you really see is a person releasing their potential and starting to really get going in life, you know? So that's what we're rolling. Good. And then Eileen, so Sylvia is probably going to answer that question because I steered that on to Sylvia there, so she'll help you out with that. Yeah, so she'll work that out. Right, folks, so, okay, good. So Eileen's going to chat to Sylvia, that's perfect. Right, folks, so on that note, I'm going to end off the webinar. The chat is going to be open there. Sylvia is going to be still available there for any other questions that you have. I myself am going to say goodnight to you. And if any other questions come up after this, I'm sure Sylvia will direct them on to me as well, okay? And so that's it, folks. So thank you all again so much for your time. Thank you for your questions.